So Star Trek Discovery Season 5 is still a ways off, and it's supposed to debut in April of this year, which leaves a pretty big gap of over 2 years between when Season 4's final aired and when Season 5 is going to premiere. It's also been filmed for a while, so they've likely been holding off until there's a gap in the slate, since last year we had Star Trek Picard, Star Trek Strange New Worlds, and Star Trek Lower Decks, so they probably thought pushing Discovery out as well would have been a bit overwhelming for last year. But Lower Decks Season 4 ended in November, which means we're looking at a 5 to 6 month gap at least between Star Trek content, which is one of the longest gaps we've had in content since like 2020. But Discovery Season 5 is also going to be the shortest season yet at only 10 episodes, and it's also the final season. And the fact it is the final season is a little worrying because the show wasn't planned as a final one. They did go back and get to film a new final after finding out the news that they were ending so that they could wrap up the show properly, but in general this season will mostly feel like a normal season, and it does seem like Discovery may have been soft cancelled since the cast and crew don't seem to have had much say in when it was going to end. The first teaser trailer dropped at New York Comic Con back in late 2022, which featured clips that looked a lot more fun and upbeat than the show usually showcases. Some of the cast have also talked about this season being something of a treasure hunt and more fun than we usually expect from the show, which this could be a really cool welcome change. The announcement that the show is ending with the season actually came a few months after the trailer even came out, which is even more concerning about how the final this season will really feel, because if the show wasn't cancelled then they definitely would have announced it was the final season with this trailer. This also came out around the time that Prodigy was cancelled properly, and knowing how bad financially Paramount Plus is doing, it's completely possible and likely that Discovery was just too expensive for the kind of views it was bringing in, so they thought maybe ending it was a good decision. We got a clip from the season last month that featured both Buck and Michael trying to survive some alien creatures, but to be honest the clip didn't leave a whole lot to go off of other than just being action intensive, and this is the same clip where we found out that the season is coming in April. Now, at the start of the month, we did find out the episode titles as well as the writers of each episode, and the episode titles are as follows. Episode 1 is Red Directive, Episode 2 is Under the Twin Moons, Episode 3 is Janal, Episode 4 is Face the Strange, Episode 5 is Mirrors, Episode 6 is Whistle's Peak, Episode 7 is Uriga, Episode 8 is Labyrinth, Episode 9 is Lagrange Point, and Episode 10 is Life Itself. But despite knowing it's the final season, the episode count, and a rough idea of when it's airing, we did find out some of our first information on the season premiere only recently. The first episode of the 5th season is going to have a viewing for people at South by Southwest in March, so it'll be around then when our first kind of mini thoughts and previews and what people think about this season will start to come out. But last week we also got our first synopsis for the season as well as a pretty cool tease, and the synopsis is as follows. So Captain Burnham and the USS Discovery are sent to retrieve a mysterious 800-year-old Romulan vessel until the artifact inside is stolen, leading to an epic chase. Meanwhile, Sarah was offered the position of a lifetime until his efforts pull her into a tangled web of secrecy. Now, easily the most interesting part of this synopsis mentions not just any Romulan vessel, but an 800-year-old one, which puts it in the late 24th century or early 25th century, so right around the time of Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, Lower Decks, Prodigy, and Picard, as well as some of the later movies. The ship is also the exact same design as the Romulan science ship that we see in Next Generation's 5th season episode, The Next Phase, which this is really cool to see designs like this return to Star Trek. That's kind of been one of my major complaints about the non-Strange New World Star Trek shows, is that there's not really been as much feel of the 90s era of Star Trek in terms of ships and designs. But the Romulan homeworld was also destroyed in 2387, which was 7 years after Nemesis and 10 years after Star Trek Voyager, and since this was so important to the species and the culture of Romulus, I feel like it would make sense for the ship to be from around that time exactly, because it also just kind of creates a lot of interesting storytelling potential, like to show what this ship was doing after Romulus was destroyed, were they exploring ways to try and fix it, stop it, looking for new homeworlds maybe. It's also possible that this could have a direct connection to a well-known Romulan from the era, who is Sela, who was a recurring antagonist in the middle seasons of Next Generation, and who would make perfect sense because Sela is a half-human and was born from Tasha Yar that survived an alternate timeline that we saw from the Enterprise C in Next Generation's 3rd season episode, Yesterday's Enterprise. But Sela also kind of makes the most sense as she's the most recognizable Romulan from that era, with direct connections to characters from the time period. She was a very high-ranking Romulan in Romulus and in the culture itself, plus she's one of the characters that outside of the games and novels we don't really have an idea on what she was doing during this time, so seeing her come back would be really cool. Other Romulans are possible. I feel like going any deeper than Sela is potentially too deep a cut for most fans to get excited about. Plus, this is a really cool way to kind of tie in maybe what was exactly happening between the Romulan culture from the 2380s until Star Trek Picard happens, because we do see some of kind of the aftermath of Romulus being destroyed in Star Trek Picard's 3 seasons. But in general, the marketing for Star Trek Discovery Season 5 has been very scattered and random so far, but it's very likely that they'll be picking up over the next month or so, probably a month before the episode debuts at March, to give potential viewers time to get hyped. So if they want people to show up and watch the premiere at South by Southwest, people have had time to kind of see the marketing, get hyped for the season, and be like, yeah, I would like to go see what the premiere looks like. They'll also want to really play up that this is the final season of the marketing, because it hasn't really gotten a chance yet, and I feel like maybe promoting this as the final season will bring some people back who may not have watched season 3 or season 4 because they kind of want to see how this season wraps up. But are you excited for Star Trek Discovery's 5th season? If you enjoyed this video, please consider liking, sharing and subscribing, and I hope you have a great day.